Okay, so yesterday we practiced multiplying radicals. Today we're going to divide radicals. And they're actually pretty similar to multiplying. So if I have a square root, and then inside there I have a fraction, what I can do is I can go through and split it into two square roots. Square root on the top, and then square root on the bottom.
Wait, so we write square root 36?
Yep. So if, for example, if I had square root of 36 over 49, I got a big fraction inside there, right? I can split that into two square roots. Square root on the top, square root on the bottom. Square root on top, square root on the bottom. And then, from there, I can simplify the top, and I can simplify the bottom. Because, what's the square root of 36?
6.
What's square root of 49?
7.
So it's just 6 over 7. So we can split fractions inside square roots into two square roots. One on the top and one on the bottom. And then after we split it, we simplify it. So let's look at this one down here. I have the square root, and then inside there I have 64 over 49.
Is it 8?
So we're going to split it into two square roots first. So we're going to go square root of 64 over square root of 49. And after I simplify, after I split it up, now I'm going to simplify. Because, what's the square root of 64?
8.
What's the square root of 49? You just said it?
7.
So it's 8 over 7. That's it.
Wow.
They are going to get a little bit more difficult just because we'll have some x's and stuff in there.
Isn't that just, I don't know.
Okay. So let's look at this next one. So we're going to do one thing before we start to split this up. I have 8x to the third on this in the top part of this fraction, and then I have 50x on the bottom part.
So the x is on the outside.
Before that, even. So I have x to the third over x, right?
Yeah.
That's really an x, another x, and a third x over x, right?
Yeah.
What happens with x over x?
Crosses out.
They cross out, right? An x on top cancels out an x on the bottom. And I really just have two x's left over on top still, right?
Yeah.
So before I split it up, I'm going to simplify whatever variables I can. So I crossed out an x on the bottom with an x on the top. So I'm going to have...
Wait, why'd you cross one? Oh, yeah. Okay, no.
So what I'm doing is I'm saving us time later on. Because it's easier to work with x squared, right? Instead of an x to the third on top but an x on the bottom. The less x's, the better. So I really have a square root of 8x squared over 50. You okay, Lily?
Yeah.
Okay, calm down. Calm down now.
No, it's an inside joke.
You're laughing at your own inside joke? That's not good. Alright, so I simplified the x to the third over x, and after you simplify your variables, then go through and split it up. So I'm going to have square root of 8x squared on top over square root of 50 on the bottom. And I just need to simplify both square roots like we've been doing for like a week and a half. So I have 8x squared, right?
Uh-huh.
So how do I get 8?
2 next.
What times what is 8?
2 times 4.
2 times 4, right? And 4 is really
2 times
2 times 2, right? And if I have x squared, that's really 2 x's, right?
Sure.
It is. So, I'm going to toss my square root back here, and I'm just going to keep simplifying. What's going to get kicked out?
2 next.
2 is going to get kicked out, and an x is going to get kicked out, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to have 2x, and then square root, and I got a 2 left over.
Oh.
So I'm going to go 2x square root of 2 right there. But I'm not done yet, because I have to do the same thing to the bottom one. I have 50.
2 times 25.
Yep, so 50 is 2 times 25, right? The 25 is really
5 times
5 times 5. Alright, bring my square root back. What gets kicked out?
5.
5, right? 5 get kicked out. So I've got 5 square root of 2. Just like that. And that's what I'm going to write
250.
again down here.
5 times 50 is...
5 square root of 2.
2.
Oh.
50. So good.
What?
5 times 50 is 250.
Yeah. Why are we multiplying by 5? Oh, okay, yeah, you're right. You're right. All right, and I will. I'll actually make it a little easier for you guys. I will let you stop here. We could actually do something else.
Nah, don't even.
What happens with square root of 2 over square root of 2? They would cross out, right? And we would just have 2x over 5. But I'm not going to make you simplify it again. I'm going to let you keep it like this. I'll let you keep it like this for now. Because I want you to practice just doing this step right here. So that's what I want you guys to practice.
Wait. So once we do the division problem, we don't have to do the simplifying problem.
No, not again.
Okay. Wait. So
What?
let's just do C together and then.
How about we do B together first, and then you guys will do C.
Oh no, C.
Because I don't know C. Yeah. All right. So let's go through, and I'll give you guys kind of the steps. So the first step is simplify variables if you have them.
And there's 3 of them, and there's 2 on top and 1 on the bottom.
We're
across-
doing A. We're doing part A.
What the?
It's already going to be a quick lesson. Quit making it trying to make it shorter. Okay, we're going to simplify variables if we can. Is there any variables in part A?
No.
No. So I don't need to do step 1.
Simplify.
The step 2 says do square root on top.
We have steps.
Yeah, I'm writing them out. If you can remember it, you don't need to write them out.
I hear it.
Square root on top and square root on the bottom. If I can spell
I
square.
already square rooted these guys. I just need to know what to do with the variables. But I'm on B.
Alright, so these are kind of your 2 steps. And then step 3 would be simplify it. Okay, so if I'm going to do part A, I don't have any variables, so I'm just going to square root on top, square root on the bottom.
144, wouldn't that be 12?
Uh-huh. So square root of 144 over square root of 9, right? So I did square root on top and bottom, and now I simplify the square roots. Square root of 144 is 12, square root of 9 is 3. And this one, if it's really easy like this, keep going. What's 12 over 3? Or 12 divided by 3?
4.
4. So this one's 4. So if you get like an 8 over 4 or like a 6 over 2, divide it out and get the single number. But if you get something like on this last problem we did, and you got a whole lot going on here, just leave it. That's fine. If it's an easy one, go through with it. If it's not, just leave it. Okay, so let's do part B now. So on part B, I have some variables, right? So I'm going to simplify variables. If I have an A on the top one, and if I have A to the third, how many A's are on the bottom?
3.
3, right? So 1, 2, 3. So a pair of A's cancels out. How many A's do I have left over?
2.
And all right, A on the top and bottom.
right?
On the bottom.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have
2, 8, 6 over 2A
36
squared.
over 4A squared. I'm not skipping steps. Just because you did it doesn't mean I'm skipping them. Do part C though if you're done. Get ahead of the game. All right.
Too easy.
So I simplified the variables. And now I'm going to square root the top, square root the bottom. So I'm going to have square root of 36 over square root of 4A squared. Okay. Let's go through. What's the square root of 36?
6.
That's just 6, right? That's a regular number, so I'm not going to do my thing. But let's look at 4A squared. What times what is 4?
2.
Times
2.
2, right? And A squared means I have 2 A's. Okay, I split it up as much as I could. What's going to get kicked out?
It's just 2.
2 is going to get kicked out. What else?
And A's.
And an A is going to get kicked out. Do I have anything left over?
No.
So I'm just going to write down 2A. This is my final answer. 6 over 2A.
Why don't you have the squared?
Because, remember, when they get kicked out, it's like they get squished together. A pair of them get squished together, and they merge into one.
Oh yeah, because she's
Yeah.
not 4.
Isn't that fun?
Yep. All right, I want you guys to do part C. And let's look at step 1 on part C. I have 25y to the third over z squared. So step 1 is simplify variables, right?
Yeah.
Y to the third means I have 1, 2, 3 y's. Z squared means I have 1, 2, What gets canceled out?
Neither.
Nothing. They have to be exactly the same at the top and the bottom, right?
Yep.
So even though we have variables, I can't simplify them. So I'm not doing anything for step 1. And I'm just going straight on to step 2. So be careful, because it's a little sneaky.
Why do you do Z and T? That's
You do Z's, do your Z's with a little line in them. Like Z. That's how you know it's a Z and not a 2.
they're kind of got it.
And I'm going to just rewrite C right here just so we can look at it better. Alright, so take a few minutes to do that one on your own.
Already did it.
Nerd. And we'll go over it in a minute or two. If you're done, you could, let me actually look at the exit ticket. That's not the right exit ticket problem. So if you're done, sit tight for a minute or two while everybody else works. Now get started.
Nah, I got it.
Wait, so Goki,
Wait,
So-
actually, yeah.
will there be a number in front of the Z, like 1?
Yeah.
Do you need one of these? My grandma calls these hickey hiders.
You have an interesting grandma.
Bro, she's funny.
Okay. So, we can't simplify variables, right? That was step 1. So what's step 2 say?
Did you get 5y to the third over 1z?
That was part of step
It's
1.
one
You can't
Z.
do it because I have a y on top, right? And then a z on the
Oh no,
bottom.
it's
You don't
paired.
cancel out.
Yeah,
So what does step 2
one-
say on the board
one
then?
z.
No, well
Square
then it's
root on
Y1
top.
then.
Wait, what?
And square root on the bottom.
What? No, it's 1, 5,
Why?
and 1
So
Z.
we're gonna do it
Okay.
like we did right here.
It's 5y.
So okay, so let's write it out. Write it out. Square root 25y.
Oh yeah, I forgot you don't do anything about it.
You're nothing about it.
Z.
Yeah, you're right.
And do a square root around the top and do a
No,
square root on the
it's
bottom. So you have 2 square roots.
G-U-N.
Little one on top,
E.
little one on bottom.
You win.
Like this.
Wait.
So
Oh,
Say what
D-O-N-E. Not D-Y.
doing
Oh.
square root
Not
and a
D-U-N-E.
little square root like that.
Dune.
So instead of having one big one, we got 2 little ones. Because we can work with 2 little ones. So we're gonna go through and simplify each
Like
square root.
D-U-N.
D-U-N-E.
I was like, dude.
Y. How do I get 25?
Or D-O-N.
Oh,
E.
Sure.
Some people's kids.
That's your kid.
11.
Why'd you go home? We started the day.
That's 20.
Yeah. Aw. You killed
Sometimes what is
it.
25? Remember, what times what? If you're not sure, look on the notification check. Or
What
you
the-
can go on
Wow.
I pressed.
Yeah.
It's done. It's done.
Oh my god, that's fine.
I don't want to do anything for computer science.
Okay. And then if I have y to the third, how many y's is that?
What's
Oh.
up? I do it too fast. I hold like this. I go.
Okay.
Oh, I
Can I
missed
split
it. I
this
gotta
part
kill
anymore?
myself. I missed
No.
the first one.
So what's going to get kicked out?
Oh shit.
Two.
Oh my god. I'm
And
tired.
The 5,
Play
right?
too much
Yeah.
Fortnite.
We do the easiest stuff too.
Dude,
You
play-
kids in these days in your Fortnite.
Shut up, nerd. You play
You
it
need
too.
y's. So a pair of y's is going to get kicked
Did you
out.
hear about the
Oh.
new? Oh my
Pairs get
god.
kicked out
Did you
and
hear
it's like
about
they
the
get squished
new
together.
Like the-
Port of
but-
Fort?
Yeah.
The third one, there's
Like
not
showing
a
that.
fourth one to go with it, so it's just going to stay there.
It's gonna be OP. Dude. Like if
So when
like if like a
kick
noob
stuff
has
out.
it
Yeah.
and he just
Five
freaking
wide.
just throws it.
I
And
got.
then-
I feel like that kind of like ruins the fun. of
I have no
Yeah.
idea there.
Zach.
Because
Like it doesn't have the
he didn't
building
get kicked
element
out, so
anymore.
he's
You
got to
just
stay.
gotta throw something.
Yeah.
Okay. That's it on
Yeah.
top. So when
That's what I was thinking too. When I first
Well,
saw
you don't
him.
have to use that on Manipulate.
I know, but there's
Okay,
the noobs that
so
use it.
Z squared.
like-
You think? You think they're gonna make
If
it
I have Z
rare
squared,
to
how many
find
Z's is
like
that?
It's purple.
Z squared.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright,
I don't
so
think.
split
I
that.
doubt everyone's gonna have it like during a game.
Alright.
Watch me get a first chest. Watch.
So it's
I'm gonna get
split
first
out.
first chest and we'll get it.
Oh.
I'm like, oh, come here,
The
nerd.
Z's, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything else left inside
Come
that?
at.
No.
So when there's nothing
Throw it
inside,
down.
we don't even write it. So I'm just gonna have a
Wow.
Z. on
Oh, okay.
that. Okay.
Wow.
So you follow those 3 steps I got on the board. Simplify your variables if you can. Do square root on top, square root on bottom. And then simplify them individually.
Oh.
We simplify that one,
God.
we got 5x square root. Simplify the bottom one, we just got 2.
Wait, so what did she get for her answer?
Alright, so start us off, Lucas.
Nope.
What's step 2?
Don't know.
What's it say on the board where it has a big 2?
Don't know.
I can't see. Oh, square root on top.
and square root on bottom, right?
Oh.
So it's going to look like square root of 25y to the third over square root of z squared. Okay. Ira,
Yeah.
how am I going to split apart 25y to the third?
5 times 5.
And then keep going.
And then
How many y's are we going to have?
2. 3, right?
Right. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. DeAndre, what's going to get kicked out? I make my square root.
Make a square root 25.
When I
Oh.
yeah, right here.
Isn't it 5?
And
Why?
so 5 and y gets kicked out, right? But I've still got, so 5's got kicked out, a pair of y's got kicked out. I still have a y left over, right?
No.
So it's going back inside the square root. I do, DeAndre. It's going back inside the square root. So I have 5y square root y on top.
What?
Okay?
This doesn't make sense.
5's got kicked out. And then we have 3 y's, right?
I don't know. The answer I got was 5y to the third over 1z.
Okay, you forgot. With y to the third, remember, you can only kick out pairs.
Told you!
You can only kick
You
out
didn't tell me
pairs.
anything.
Yeah, I
I
said
didn't
I
even talk to you.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, I said the
So,
answer.
if you're gonna do that shortcut we talked about, right? We have to take y to the 3, and we gotta kick one out and go squared y.
No one else.
Because remember, we want evens. We really want evens right there. And then the square
It's on the flat.
means there's 2 of them. They get kicked out, and the square goes away. We'll do another one, and we'll look at it. We'll do another.
Just give us the homework. Just give us
Okay.
the
No, we're gonna do one still.
Oh.
Yes. All right, but we're not quite done because we still have the bottom part, right? If I have square root of z squared, which is really z times z, right?
Yeah.
If I have z times z, because z squared is even, right? Okay, what's gonna get kicked out?
Well,
A z, right?
yeah.
Z's get kicked out. And when they get kicked out, it's like they get squished together. There's just a single one left over. And is there anything left inside there?
No.
No.
No. So I'm just gonna have z in the bottom.
Why do you have a square root over the y?
Because, so, 2 y's got squished together and kicked out.
Yeah.
But I have this third guy, right? I have this third y right here. Is there so this pair got kicked out and they're gone. Is there another y that goes with this y?
No.
No. So he's got to stay inside the square root. He didn't get kicked out like his 2 other buddies did. He stays inside there. So I have 5y square root y. So let's do another one. So we'll do it like an exit ticket problem. So you can skip to like your exit ticket, but cross out the one you have there because we're not going to do that one because we're only going to do about half this lesson. Okay, and I want you to do the square root of, let's go, 12x.
What? The other one was so much easier. Why are you doing
No,
this?
because you haven't learned how to do that one. You'd have to rationalize, which you have to multiply by something, and we didn't learn. So let's go 12x squared over 10 over 10. Okay, I want you to simplify this one. So we're going to do it like an exit ticket, but we're going to go over it. So on your paper, I want you to go through, simplify that, follow those 3 steps that I have. Which, give me a second, and I'll copy and, well, I'll keep that on there. So I want you to simplify this. So step 1 says simplify variables. Is there anything we can simplify with variables though?
Nah.
No.
No, because I just have x's on top, there's nothing on the bottom. So we go to step 2, which says do a square root on top and square root on bottom.
Are you doing an exit ticket right now?
Yeah, this is your exit ticket. We're treating it like your exit ticket. But we're going to go over it because I want to check your work again. So we're going to go over this one. And then you guys will get to your homework. So I want you to do it on your own.
Oh, I understand. Because when it says square, like it says square root on, like when you get a little square root, I just put down 6, but you guys are putting 6 times 6, and then 3 times 3.
Okay, so when I say square root of, I mean, we're gonna rewrite it. We're gonna go square root of 12 x to the fifth on top over square root of 10.
Yeah, but since that, but, like, well, okay, so those don't have anything, so technically, I kind of I just don't write them until the very end, and go deal with them again. So, when you say square rooted, that I just put 6,
Mhm.
and then I'd put, like, 5, or whatever.
So when you square root it, remember, you gotta do the 12 and then say 12 is almost 6 times 2. Oh, but 6 is really 2 times 3, right?
Yeah, but like, I don't understand, when you say square root, like square root 12, isn't that 6?
You divided it by 2 to get 6. The square root of 12 is like 3 points. Because you know,
Okay, so,
what do you got?
no, just
So when I say square root it, I mean, so
You
like
mean
we did-
simplify it.
Simplify, yeah. I mean, simplify.
okay, so you simplifying square root,
Yeah. So I mean simplify, like we did right there.
so then basically make 2 different problems, and then put them together.
Put them together, very end. Yep.
See, that's so much work.
You done, DeAndre?
Yeah.
You don't see it?
I already cut myself
You know that last time I said that, and Goki got mad.
I was talking about a game, but
What happened to one?
Wait, we put 3 on the outside of what?
x2 and 3x.
Oh, I didn't see it. It was all squished.
What do you put the 3 on the outside of?
The top one, because it's on top, right? So it'll be outside on top.
So outside of the square root. So
Yeah, outside the square on the top.
So just
But 6 is 2 times 3.
2
Yeah,
times.
so 2 is
So
kicked
it's
out.
2. So
Yeah.
but it'd be 2 right here.
Yeah, it'll be 2 right there. Mm-hmm. You got
See, this still doesn't make any sense to me. So oh yeah, go right here. 2 times 5, and then leave that on the bottom and 10.
But did you get kicked out?
Oh my god.
No, so you just multiply.
So we just, and we keep it inside there, so it's not gonna change, we're just gonna stay square root on the bottom. I'll help you in a second. Alright, so,
And that's it.
so, we gotta work though, okay, so, let's see, 2's gonna kick out, right? What happened to that 3 right there? Did it get kicked out?
Okay.
This one here. Because it was 2 times 6.
Oh yeah, so you just put 3.
So put 3 there, okay. But we still have these x's up on top.
Yeah.
What?
And there's a pair of those, so it would be x squared and then an extra one. X squared and an extra.
There you go, that's it. Good. What's up, Ira?
Okay. Since I have 5x, right?
Yeah.
So 2 is gonna go, so would I have x3 still squared? Or cubed?
So, on the outside?
Yeah.
So a pair gets out, and it's 1 on the outside, right?
Yeah.
The second pair gets kicked out, you have another.
Right.
So you have x squared on the outside.
Oh.
Mhm. So it'll be an x squared, right?
Yeah.
But you have to simplify the 12 also.
Could like 2 times 6 or
Mhm.
2 times 4?
2 times 6, right? Either one, it doesn't matter. So 2 times 6, but what's 6 really?
3.
Times.
2.
Okay, so what's also going to get kicked out?
The 2.
The 2. So we're going to have 2 kicked out.
Right.
So we got 2x squared kicked out. Okay, what is left over inside there?
Okay.
On the top.
Oh,
So, let's see. The 12 was 2 times 3 times 2, right? And 2
Yeah.
Okay, did the 3 get kicked out?
No.
So it's just kicked out. And we still have an x, right?
yeah.
It's going to stay here.
Right.
Okay. And then on the bottom, if I have 10, 10 is really what? We got to simplify.
2 is 5.
Does anything get kicked out?
No.
No, so it doesn't even change. Just keep it like that.
Okay.
Alright, let's go over this one. Real quick. Okay, so on this one, we have to, step 2 says put the square roots around the top and around the bottom, right? So I'm going to have square root of 12x to the 5th over square root of 10. So I am going to start with the top. Now I'm going to simplify the top. 12x to the 5th. So 12 is 2 times 6, but 6 is really 2 times 3. And Lily, if it's x to the 5th, how many x's is that?
5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? So what gets kicked out, Lucas?
Huh?
What gets kicked out of this top one? Pause it.
It's not a game.
I thought you were going to be like DeAndre.
It's not a game. It's
It's
real life.
finished. Full.
Huh?
So what's getting kicked out of this top here?
I don't know. 2's and X's.
2's are getting kicked out, and an x is getting kicked out, and a second x is getting kicked out. So I have a 2, and Ira, if an x and then a second x got kicked out, how would we write that?
Square.
Yep.
Dude, someone
To X
hacked your
squared,
screen. I thought it was
And
like
then
the first
square
type
root
but-
of, I've got a 3 and an x left over,
Yeah.
and that's it for the top.
Yo, bro, whoever used
then
this
the-
computer last
Then the
cracked it.
10.
I'll check it in a second.
Oh, it's not cracked.
Doesn't
it's
the
cracked.
10 just stay in the bottom?
Yep, so for 10, right, we could try to split it up and get 2 times 5. But if I just have a 2 and a 5, does anything get kicked out? No.
What would you call it?
So it just stays as square root of 10.
Scar.
This little line, I was like, what is that? Is that hair? I felt it.
You can do like a hairline fracture,
Oh,
like a
yeah.
hair fracture or something, or hair crack.
It's like a scratch.
Yeah, or square root. All right, that's it. So we are not going to do exit ticket on Socrative, and I'll get you guys your homework here in just a minute.